You have been lied to. Not by a person, not by someone sitting across from you, by a system. One that needed the lie to keep running. The lie: work hard enough, long enough, without complaint, and the money comes. You believed it because everyone believed it. Your parents, your teachers, every motivational poster in every break room you ever ate lunch in. But you're still waiting. Maybe you're 29. You've done everything right for 7 years, and your bank account doesn't know it. Maybe you're 35, you got the promotion, and you're still living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you're 40, and there's a feeling, not a thought, a feeling, quiet and low, that something is wrong with the equation. You're not lazy. You have never been lazy. That's what makes this so disorienting. Machiavelli figured this out 500 years ago, and almost nobody in finance wants you to know he did. Most people think The Prince is a book about politics, about seizing kingdoms. It is, but underneath that, it's something else entirely. The most honest manual ever written about how power and resources actually move, not how we wish they moved, not how they should, how they do. What I'm about to say isn't motivational, it's mechanical. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. 7 rules. Each one builds on the last. The final rule, the one I'll come back to, is the reason most people stay exactly where they are. Not laziness, not bad luck, because nobody ever told them the truth about effort. Let's start at the beginning. Rule 1. Effort is not currency. There's a belief so deep in the American working class that it functions less like an idea and more like a religion. Effort has moral value. If you work hard, you deserve a reward. If you struggle, the universe owes you something. Beautiful belief. Completely disconnected from how money actually moves. Money doesn't care about your effort. Money moves toward value. Those are not the same thing. 2 people. A teacher with 20 years in the classroom, grading papers on weekends, staying late, genuinely changing lives, and a 24-year-old with a phone and a ring light who figured out how to make 10-minute skincare videos. The teacher is doing more hours, more skill, more genuine impact. The market doesn't see it that way. It pays for reach, for leverage, for things people want at scale. The teacher reaches 30 kids. The influencer reaches 3 million. Same effort equation, completely different output. Not because the influencer worked harder, because she built a different architecture. Machiavelli had a word for this. Virtue. Not virtue in the moral sense. Effective capability. The ability to produce results in the actual world. Not in theory. Not in intention. In measurable outcome. He watched princes exhaust their armies in battles that didn't need to be fought. He said the hardest working ruler is not the most powerful ruler. The most powerful ruler understands which actions produce which results. Effort is an input, not an output anyone will pay for. Stop asking yourself how hard you worked today. Start asking what your work produced that someone will pay for. Those are different questions. They lead to different lives. But here's what's worse. The system doesn't just fail to reward effort. It uses your belief in effort against you. Rule 2. The effort trap. Busyness as control. You know the feeling. Sunday evening. Low-grade dread. The week hasn't started and you're already behind. So you fill the calendar. Add the extra shift. Say yes to the project. Subscribe to the side hustle newsletter. Busy feels like progress. It isn't. Busyness is the most sophisticated trap the economy runs on you. It keeps you moving without moving you forward. And, more dangerously, it keeps you too occupied to notice what's actually happening. Machiavelli wrote about occasione, occasion, opportunity. He described fortune as a river, sometimes calm, sometimes flooding. The people who do well, he said, are not the ones who fight the river hardest. They're the ones who built channels before the flood came, who positioned themselves to catch the water. You cannot build channels when you are drowning in your own schedule. Warren Buffett reads for 6 hours a day. Somewhere in there, an hour or two is just thinking, not producing, not meeting, thinking. Jeff Bezos doesn't schedule anything before 10 in the morning. Not lazy habits. The habits of people who understand that attention is a finite resource and a depleted mind cannot recognize opportunity even when it walks through the door. The person working 60 hours a week at 2 jobs has no margin. No slack. When occasion arrives, when the market shifts, when the connection appears, when the window opens, they are too exhausted to see it. Busyness is not neutral. It is active concealment. The system benefits from keeping you busy. A busy person doesn't ask questions, doesn't notice the gap between what they're earning and what the work is worth. Stop performing productivity. Start protecting space. This is not a self-care argument. Machiavelli was not interested in your well-being. He was interested in what wins, and what wins, consistently, is not the person who outworks everyone. It's the person who outpositions everyone. Which brings us to what positioning actually requires. Rule 3. Leverage is the only multiplier that matters. Every dollar you have ever earned came from one of 2 architectures. First, you traded time for money. You showed up, performed a function, got paid for hours present. When you stopped showing up, the money stopped. Clean, simple, and at scale a ceiling you will never break through. Second, something you built kept producing whether you were working or not. A system, a process, a product, a team, something that multiplied your effort instead of just recording it. Almost everyone is living inside the first architecture, confused about why the second keeps getting further away. Here's the mechanical truth. A skilled plumber earns around $80 an hour, real money. But there's one plumber and 24 hours in a day, and even the most disciplined can physically work maybe 10 before quality degrades. The ceiling is roughly $800 a day, built into the architecture itself. Now take the same plumber, same skills, same work ethic. He owns the company. 8 plumbers working under him, each producing $80 an hour, and he captures a margin on each while he sleeps. His income is no longer a function of his hours, it's a function of his structure. Machiavelli separated the use of force from the use of systems. Force exhausts itself, he said. A prince who rules only through direct action, his own presence, his own effort is one illness away from losing everything. But a prince who builds institutions that operate independently, that prince's power persists. The equivalent in money is not complicated. What runs when you stop? If the honest answer is nothing, that is not a moral failure, it is an architectural one. And architecture can be changed. But most people ask next, I don't have capital. I can't build systems without money. That's rule 4. And it requires you to expand what the word capital actually means. Rule 4. Capital is not money, it's positioning. The story most people tell about wealth goes like this. First you save money, then you invest it, then the money makes money. Linear, patient, safe. The problem is the first step. Save money. From what? If you're earning $42,000 a year in a city with $1,800 monthly rent, the math does not produce meaningful savings on a timeline that matters. You can optimize, cut subscriptions, pack the lunch, skip the vacation. You'll save $3,000 a year instead of $1,200. You'll still be 47 before that produces anything real. This is not pessimism. This is arithmetic. What Machiavelli observed, and this is the part that changes things, is that capital comes in forms that aren't money. He distinguished between princes who inherited their power through fortune and princes who built it through ability. The ones who built from nothing, he said, were harder to dislodge because they understood the terrain. They'd earned their position through non-monetary capital, reputation, relationships, knowledge, timing, trust. That capital converted to real power. It always does. In 2006, Gary Vaynerchuk was working in his father's wine store in New Jersey. No investment capital. A borrowed camera, deep knowledge about wine, and one early insight. YouTube was becoming searchable, and nobody in the wine world was on it. Within 3 years, Wine Library went from a $3 million business to a $60 million business. Not because he had money, because he had positioning, the right knowledge, the right medium, the right moment, and he moved when the window was open. This is what non-monetary capital looks like. Your expertise in a field, your reputation in a community, your relationships with 10 people who trust you completely, your ability to explain something complicated in a way regular people actually understand. None of that requires a savings account. All of it can be built starting now. The hard part is that building it requires one thing most people avoid with their entire nervous system. And this is where the numbers get uncomfortable. Rule 5. Your income ceiling is set by your social graph. This one is going to land wrong for some people. Stay with it. The people you spend the most time with are not just your friends. They are your reference class. The people whose financial behavior you unconsciously calibrate against. Their beliefs about what's possible become your beliefs about what's possible. Their relationship with risk becomes your relationship with risk. If everyone in your immediate circle earns between $35,000 and $55,000 a year, it is extremely unlikely you will spontaneously earn $200,000. Not because you aren't capable, because your entire model of normal has been set against a different number. In 2022, researchers at Harvard analyzed economic mobility data across 72 million Americans. They were trying to understand what actually predicts whether someone moves up the income ladder, not education level, not geography. The single strongest predictor was what they called economic connectedness, the degree to which lower-income individuals had meaningful relationships with higher-income individuals. The mechanism isn't complicated. When you know people operating at a higher level, you see different decisions being made, different risk tolerances. You see what's actually possible up close in real life, not as an abstraction. And your brain quietly recalibrates what normal looks like. Machiavelli spent an entire chapter of The Prince on advisors. The quality of the people around a prince, he said, is a direct reflection of the prince's own judgment. He also said the most dangerous advisor is the flatterer, the person who tells you what you want to hear, who confirms your current path is fine, that you're doing great, that things will work out. The flatterer feels like support. The flatterer is, quietly, keeping you exactly where you are. I'm not telling you to abandon the people you love. I'm telling you to be honest about what your current environment is calibrating you toward, and whether that's actually where you want to go. This is the hardest rule, not intellectually, emotionally. And that tightening in the chest you might be feeling right now, that is exactly what Rule 6 is about. Rule 6, comfort, is the enemy wearing a friendly face. Let me stop here for a second. If you've made it this far, you already know something most people don't. You've sat with 5 rules that most finance channels will never say out loud. And what comes next, Rule 6 and 7, is the part I almost didn't include, because it's the part that changes how you see everything. Not just money, everything. Comfort is not laziness. Comfort is not weakness. It's something far more sophisticated. It's the sensation your nervous system produces when you're inside a known environment, biological, automatic, designed to keep you alive in a world where the unfamiliar usually meant something was trying to eat you. The problem, you are no longer living in that world. Your brain doesn't know that. So, when you think about quitting the stable job to build the thing you've been sketching in notebooks for 3 years, your body produces the same threat signal it would if you were standing at the edge of a cliff. Heart rate climbing, cortisol, the quiet voice that says this is dangerous, go back, this is not safe, and you listen. Because the signal feels real, because it has always kept you safe before. Here's what Machiavelli understood, that your nervous system doesn't. The cliff is not the threat. Staying on the plateau is. He wrote about fortune as a river. When it runs calm, everyone praises it. Nobody builds embankments, because why would you? The water is calm, no urgency. Then the flood comes, and the people who didn't build are destroyed, not by bad luck, by the preparation they chose not to do when preparation was still optional. Comfort is why people don't build embankments, not because they can't, because building feels unnecessary when nothing is flooding yet, because the discomfort of construction, the uncertainty, the exposure, the possibility of failing in front of people who are watching is an immediate cost, and the flood is hypothetical until it isn't. Here's a number, because this is not abstract. The average American savings account earns approximately 0.5% annual interest. The average inflation rate over the last decade has been between 3% and 4.5%, which means if you have $50,000 sitting in a standard savings account because it feels safe, you are losing between $1,250 and $2,000 in purchasing power every single year. The feeling of safety is costing you roughly $150 a month. That is not a metaphor. That is arithmetic. Comfort has a price tag. Most people have never been shown the receipt. Machiavelli didn't moralize about this. He didn't say people who choose comfort are weak or foolish. He said they are making a completely understandable choice, given the information available to them. And that choice, consistently made, produces a predictable outcome. Someone else, somewhere, is doing the uncomfortable thing, building the embankment, acquiring the leverage, making the investment the fear signal said to avoid. 5 years from now, when the flood comes, and it always comes, in some form, that person is dry. There's one specific type of discomfort I want to name, because it's probably the one sitting in the room with you right now. The discomfort of being seen trying. Failing quietly is tolerable. Most people can absorb a private failure. Tried something, it didn't work, nobody witnessed it, move on. The cost is internal. But being seen, trying and failing, starting the business and watching it collapse in public, posting the content and getting ignored, asking for the opportunity and being told no by someone who knows you, that cost feels social. And social costs, for humans, register as existential threats. So people don't try publicly. They keep the idea private, protect it from exposure by never exposing it. They call this caution, being realistic, waiting until they're ready. Machiavelli called it something else. He called it choosing to let fortune decide your fate because you refused to act when action was available. The discomfort is real. The cost of avoiding it is realer. And now we are at the final rule. The one I told you about at the beginning. The one that makes everything else either matter or not matter, depending entirely on what you do with it. Rule 7, the climax rule. Knowledge without identity change is entertainment. You have watched a lot of videos like this one. I don't mean that as criticism. I mean it as a fact I want you to sit with. You've read the books. listen to the podcasts on the commute. You know what compound interest is. You know you should be investing. You know about leverage, about positioning, about the trap of trading hours for dollars. You have known these things for years. Something has still not changed. Why? Not because the information is wrong, it's correct. Not because you aren't intelligent enough to apply it. You are. The reason is something financial content almost never addresses directly. The information is landing in an identity that hasn't changed to receive it. Every human being carries an internal model of who they are, not who they want to be, who they are. It includes beliefs about what people like them do with money, what risks people like them take, what kind of life people like them live. This model is built slowly, over years, from family and environment and repeated experience. And it is extraordinarily resistant to change, because identity change is a form of death. The old self has to dissolve for the new one to exist, and the nervous system treats that dissolution the same way it treats any other threat, with resistance, with anxiety, with very sophisticated reasons why now is not the right time. So what happens when you consume financial content without changing the identity underneath? You feel the insight, genuinely feel it. The dopamine of recognition, yes, this is true, I needed to hear this. You share it, maybe. And then you go back to making the same decisions as yesterday. Because those decisions flow from an identity that didn't move. The information becomes entertainment. Well-produced entertainment that makes you feel like you're making progress without requiring you to make any. Machiavelli drew a distinction here that cuts to the bone. He separated the prince who inherits a principality from the prince who conquers one. The inherited prince, he said, has a much harder time keeping power, not because he's less capable, but because he never had to become someone capable of holding it. The throne came before the identity, and thrones without matching identities don't last. The conquering prince built the identity first, through difficulty, through actual risk. Through the repeated experience of making decisions under pressure and living with the consequences. By the time he had the power, he had also become someone who knew how to keep it. Here is where the lottery statistics become the most clarifying data in personal finance. 70% of lottery winners are broke within 7 years of winning, not 60, 70. More than 2/3 of people who receive sudden, life-changing wealth, more money than they would have earned in multiple lifetimes, return to their previous financial state within a decade. Not because they're irresponsible, because the identity didn't change when the bank account did. The beliefs about what money is for, how much is normal to spend, what kind of person they are, none of that updated. And behavior flows from identity, not from balance. So the money left. Back to baseline. Because the identity was still set at baseline. Now flip it. Study after study of self-made millionaires who lose everything through fraud, through market crashes, through genuine catastrophe, shows the overwhelming majority rebuild within 5 to 7 years. Same timeline as the lottery winners going broke, but the trajectory runs the other direction. Because the identity is set. The person who built it once knows how to build it again. The internal model, what is possible, what risks are worth taking, how money actually moves that didn't disappear with the account balance. Identity is the variable that determines whether financial knowledge produces financial change or just produces a larger library of content you haven't acted on. So here is the question Machiavelli would ask you. Not what do you know, not what did you learn tonight, not which of these rules resonated most. Which of these rules requires you to become someone different to act on? That's the rule that matters. That's the one with real cost. The one most people will acknowledge, nod at, feel genuinely moved by, and then not act on. Not because they can't, because acting on it means admitting that the current version of themselves is not the version that gets the different result. That is the hardest thing a person can admit. Machiavelli admitted it about power 500 years ago. He said most men would rather hold a losing position than acknowledge the position is lost, because acknowledging it requires them to change who they are, not just what they do. Most people will read that sentence and think about someone else. Close. Let's go back to where we started. The lie wasn't that work has no value. Work has value. Skill has value. Showing up consistently, doing difficult things well, not quitting when it gets hard, those things matter. Nobody who built anything real did it without them. The lie was simpler than that, and more damaging. The lie was that effort is sufficient, that there's a direct, reliable line between how hard you work and how much you accumulate. There is no such line. There never was. And the people who designed the system, who built the schools, wrote the management books, produced the motivational content, many of them knew that. Because a workforce that believes effort is sufficient is a workforce that doesn't ask harder questions, doesn't look at the architecture, doesn't notice the gap between what it produces and what it receives. Machiavelli was not popular in his time. The Prince was banned. The Catholic Church put it on the index of forbidden books, not because it was wrong, because it was accurate, because it described power as it actually operated, rather than as the powerful preferred it to be described. What he understood, what these 7 rules have tried to translate into the language of modern money, is that the world does not run on fairness. It runs on positioning, leverage, timing, identity, and the willingness to see clearly when seeing clearly is uncomfortable. That willingness is rarer than capital, rarer than talent, rarer than opportunity. Most people, when handed a clear view of how things actually work, will choose the more comfortable explanation, because the clear view requires something from them. It requires them to stop being a victim of a system which at least produces the comfort of innocence and start being an agent inside it. And responsibility is heavier than blame. Every rule tonight pointed at the same thing from a different angle. Effort without leverage is exhaustion. Busyness without margin is blindness. Your environment is quietly calibrating your ceiling whether you consent to it or not. Comfort is not rest, it is the slow payment of a cost you never agreed to. And knowledge that doesn't change you is just content you consumed on a Tuesday night and mostly forgot by Thursday. The question Machiavelli spent his entire life examining was this: what separates the person who understands how the world works from the person who actually changes their position in it? He came to a conclusion that is either obvious or devastating, depending on where you're standing. The difference is not information, not intelligence, not even opportunity. It is the willingness to act on what you know before you feel ready, before the conditions are perfect, before the fear goes away, because the fear doesn't go away. The people who built things didn't wait for it to leave. They moved with it still present, made the decision while their hands were uncertain and the outcome was genuinely unclear. Machiavelli wrote, and this is perhaps the most honest sentence in 5 centuries of financial and political philosophy, that fortune favors the bold. Not because boldness is romantic, because boldness is the only input she responds to. Hesitation she ignores, caution she passes by. She moves, and she waits, briefly, to see who moves with her. CTA. Pick one rule, not all 7. 1. The one that landed somewhere specific. The one that described something you recognized in yourself that you haven't fully admitted out loud yet. The one that, if you acted on it differently tomorrow than you did today, would produce a different result 6 months from now. Write it down, not in your phone, on paper, with a pen. Because the physical act of writing is a commitment the body makes that typing doesn't require, and commitment, the small, private, specific kind, is where identity actually begins to move. Not the grand gesture, not the dramatic life overhaul. The single decision, made clearly on a specific piece of paper, that acknowledges the current version of me has been making a particular choice. Tomorrow I am going to make a different one. Most people will feel this for about 4 hours. They'll replay a line or two on the drive home. They'll think, that was good. I needed that. Things are going to be different. Then tomorrow arrives. The morning feels like every other morning, and the decisions are right there, the same ones, wearing the same clothes, making the same quiet case for why today is not quite the right day. Most people will listen, because most people always have. A few won't. Not because they're smarter, not because they're braver in some innate, fixed way, but because they've decided at some point, maybe tonight, that the cost of staying the same has gotten higher than the cost of changing. That's the only difference. You already know which one you are. If you're in the group that won't go back, there is a next video. It covers the internal architecture, the specific beliefs high-income individuals hold about money that are structurally different from everyone else's. Not behaviors, beliefs, the operating system underneath the decisions. Most people won't watch it, not because it won't be useful, because it will require something from them before it's even finished. If that doesn't sound like a problem, subscribe. The video is already there, and if something from tonight is still sitting with you, the rule that landed, the thing you recognized, leave it in the comments, not for engagement. Because writing it down, even there, is the beginning of making it real. Machiavelli wrote The Prince in exile, stripped of his position, locked out of power, with no guarantee anyone would ever read a word of it. He wrote it anyway. That's the whole lesson.